Hello, Chandy.
ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะคุณนีน่าค่ะ
อาจารย์ครับสวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
อ้าว
ค่ะ
ค่ะ
สวัสดี
อาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะคุณนีน่าค่ะ
Good morning อาจารย์สุชิน
สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะคุณโจนาธานค่ะ
Morning
Shall
อา
we
จารย์
start, Ajahn?
เชิญ
I don't
เชิญ
know
สนทนาเลยดีไหมคะ
Yes, I have a question, but other people also have questions, I'm sure. Or shall I start? Is it okay?
I'm sure it's okay. Nina, you go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Jonathan. Nice to see you. You have to do a lot now, a lot of work and worries.
Not really, just
I
as
have
usual,
conditions.
pretty much.
I have conditions to think a lot about feeling because it is the subject of the Dutch evening this next week, you know. And I found that especially with feeling, there is so much confusion. It's not pure Nama. It seems that bodily sensations are so much mixed in this feeling. The Nama and Rupa cannot be together. We cling so much. It's not pure Nama, but we forget that feeling is going immediately. It is only so short. And I remember now that Jonathan has such a good reminder and not to be so concerned about that it is thinking and not the real characteristic. I'm very glad he reminds me, and it reminds me too of the venerable late Pradhammadaro, who also said, well, when it is forgetfulness, then the reality is just forgetfulness. It's very good because he might try to know feeling, and then the reality is not feeling. And the Buddha spoke so much about the subtlety of the teachings, and Ajahn always reminds us of the subtlety. So I think it's good to hear more about the subtlety of feeling and all the other realities and the teachings.
As long as there is expectation, it's not moment of understanding anything. But from hearing again and again and understanding the anatterness of everything, and the point is that it has to be anatta, uncontrollable. When it's so firm, we don't mind at all. Whether now it's time to understand, seeing or hearing or remembering or whatever, no selection to be the proof of the confidence of no one in ourselves. So at this moment, there is feeling, but it depends on condition, whether it can be object of awareness or understood or not. That's why as long as we think about one thing, it hinders the anatterness of that which is now arising and falling away instantly. That's why when time comes, there can be moment of understanding instantly, no expectation of that object before. That's why just understand the anatterness of all conditioned realities and also whatever, nibbana or whatever, it cannot be taken for anything because it has its own characteristic, its own nature, but they are together at once. They cannot be known, any one of them at all. But when there is the understanding of each one more and more to understand that actually seeing is seeing, And feeling is feeling. At moment of seeing, there must be feeling, but it does not appear. So how can there be the understanding of feeling? But when there's understanding of whatever is there by conditions, there can be a moment of being aware of feeling, even it's so very vague in the beginning, but it's there. A reality which is different from seeing or liking or remembering or whatever it is. That's why there should be or there must be the understanding of one characteristic. Otherwise, the anotherness of anything cannot appear as it now is at all. That's why just learn to understand more and more, deeper and deeper about the meaning of anotherness. What is there? Gone. While we are thinking of feeling, feeling is gone, arising and falling away all the time. And there is only thinking of wanting or try to understand the feeling, even it's there. But when it does not show up as the object, there can never be the understanding of it because it does not appear, it does not show up at all. So now what appears has a reason, fallen away unexpectedly. But the characteristic anatta, it cannot be expected at all because it's there, seeing now, whatever now, by conditions. This is the subtle way to let go the idea of self or thing from anything. So when we heard about the Four Noble Truths, the fourth one included, because now it is the way to understand better and better about that which is now appearing, little by little, comparing to the amount of ignorance and attachment from eons and eons ago, how very little it is. And there are many stages, many degrees of understanding. And now we're just talking about feeling, seeing, hearing, thinking, while each one is there when it is conditioned to be there. But when it doesn't show up, it cannot be known at all. But hearing about it on and on and on, it's there. Now here, everything we're talking about, feeling, memory, remembering, and so on. But it's not known until by conditions, right understanding develops in different ways, like it can be moment of just thinking about what's the use of that which arises and falls away and then gone, never to return. From moment of birth, each moment on and on, arising and falling away and gone. Until death, no more thinking about the past life, past reality at all. Even just right now, they are as they are, by condition, arising and falling away, but not known at all, because no words which can condition moment of thinking, considering, seeing the truth, the absolute truth of life, that what we take for life is just the very short moment, from moment to moment, of that which is there by conditions. So no one in this life at all, only different realities from moment to moment, but wrong understanding, ignorance, and attachment is there at any moment when there is no understanding of the truth of what is there now. So now there must be the truth of whatever is there, but it's not known yet because the subtlety of the nature that it just arises and falls away in split seconds. It doesn't know who and who and who at all. Only at that moment, the idea of that which appears, which doesn't understanding the truth of the nature of it, as it's not there anymore. Conceal the truth of no one there, nothing there, all gone in split seconds. That's why consider about the truth of whatever we are hearing about, to have more confidence. This is to build up, to implant the firm confidence of the truth that even right now, it's only a characteristic of a reality, or what are there are only different realities from moment to moment. until it appears just one as the object. So when we heard about a reality now arises and falls away, it's not there anymore. It just developed little by little to understand the truth, so that when time comes, at moment of sati, no doubt about what is meant by sati or satipatthana. Because if there is no understanding of the truth of what is there now at all, it's impossible for awareness with understanding to arise, to understand the truth of what is now appearing. This is why it works its way, the Eightfold Path. No one there at all. So subtle, unknown at all, until hearing about the teachings and learn to understand that at every moment, even hearing and thinking and understanding, it's not me, not anyone at all.
Ajahn, but why is it especially with feeling that it seems that bodily phenomena, rupas, are mixed in more than with other khandhas?
Even the word and the word nama and rupa, it's just the word, because the nature of it does not appear as it is. For example, nothing is there at all, like at moment of deep sleep. And when at moment of something is there, it has to be through one of the six doorways, no matter what. But no understanding at all of that which is conditioned to be there arising. Otherwise, there cannot be that moment of experience of appearing at all. That's why what is there now is conditioned by the reality which arises to experience it. This is a truth. There must be condition for a reality to arise to experience it. Otherwise, it cannot appear at all. But without any considering at all, it's there. So it's there. When it's the reality which experiences and no one at all there, who else? It's me who see. Take that for I, which sees, not understanding that it's a reality which arises to see. That's all. Each moment, no one, without firm confidence of the truth, they cannot be conditioned to understand directly the truth of what is there now. As we have heard, hardness is there. How can it be something? Because it's only hardness. And there must be a reality which experiences it. No thought about that at all. Just take the hardness from something instantly by the arising and falling way, succeedingly. So it seems like it's there all the time, the same characteristic. But in truth, it just arises and falls away instantly. So each word should be developed to understand the truth. It's there just very short. Otherwise, it's not subtle at all. Because it's so short that it's so subtle to know its truth. So what is the subtlety of the reality? Because it's there, just very, very short and then gone. So it takes quite a long time for considering wisely whether it is true or not, just to understand what is truth and what is not the truth. So there can be more understanding of the truth as it is, that is so true. Who conditions seem to arise, it has a reason already and is there, gone too, unknown. That's why learning to understand the truth and no selection, no intention to try to have just this and that to be object of understanding. Who can control? Who can make anything arise? It's there. So the word of truth about it, condition considering carefully, wisely, to not see it wrongly as something or I as before. This is the beginning of understanding what is there to be known, not just to talk about and forget that it is not known as it is yet until there's more confidence of the truth. And that strong confidence will let go the idea of self little by little. So the understanding of the truth is the most important thing, because when we talk about other things, can it bring about the understanding of the nature of the truth of that? But the word about the truth is that it's there by conditions. It arises and falls away instantly. But the succession of the arising and falling away of a reality, condition, shape, and form as nimitta, to be known of something that one is used to take it by such shape and form, make it known as something. But in truth, what we think is there is not there, just all the time by conditions. That's why it's so subtle to understand the truth. But when there is the understanding of the truth, it's not enough, because it's not the moment of realize the truth, the realization of the truth, the arising and falling away, the Ariya Satya, the first Ariya Satya. And as long as there is still attachment, taking it for something because of ignorance, the second noble truth is not letting go or wear away at all. That's why, in order to realize the truth, to experience directly the truth, it has to be very firm confidence at level of intellectual understanding. No matter it appears as something, but the truth of it is not that. That's why beginning to let go the attention to the shape and form as usual, little by little, at moment of understanding that it is only that which can be experienced through seeing, through the eye, sense, and the seeing is there, which sees, and that is the function of that which arises, because it experiences what? That which can be seen. Only that. Only that. So where's I? And at moment of hearing, it's only that which is conditioned to arise, to hear the sound. So it's not me. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Each moment is there already by conditions. Learning to understand the truth is the moment of letting go from understanding with attachment and ignorance. And it's the way leading to experience the truth, because the covers the attachment and ignorance cannot cover up as usual, little by little, until it's there as what Buddha had enlightened. So now it does not appear as it is, the difference between the sense law and the mind law. It seems like there's more sense law than the idol, than the mind law. But actually, in truth, what is there when it appears as it is? So it can be experienced clear, really clear, clearer and clearer by stronger and stronger right understanding, which let go attachment and ignorance of whatever is there unexpectedly. Because there can be many objects which hasn't arisen before, but it's there by conditions. But when there's no understanding of the truth of the nature of that which can experience or which cannot experience, no understanding of the difference. So it's something unknown all the time. So right understanding, understand truthfully. So at moment when it's there, no doubt. But when there's doubt, it's not right understanding, because no understanding at all of that characteristic, no matter what it is, because what is there which hasn't arisen yet. No one can know what would be the next moment. What is the object? Unknown now, but it's there when time comes. That's why the understanding of the truth as no self is so very important, because it's so true to develop on and on and on. Naturally, this is the only way to have less and less ignorance and attachment, which now covers up the truth of what is there.
Ajahn, you spoke just now about sense door and mind door. And please would you repeat it, because it's a bit difficult to follow.
Yes, how many moments of the IDA process and how many moments mind process? Excuse me. How many moments of the sense process and how many mind process follow the sense process?
Yes.
What
You
is
cannot count, no? You don't know, so many.
So Ajahn's comment, Nina, was that it seems that there are more sense door processes than mind door processes.
Yeah.
Whereas in truth, it's the opposite that's the case.
What is it? Please, I cannot hear it.
Whereas in truth, Ajahn is explaining there are many, many more mind door processes and sense door processes, contrary to what we think, contrary to how we take it to be. Isn't that right, Ajahn?
the truth is that, but what appears is not like that at all, right? So how can whatever is now arising and falling away can be directly known? That's why we learn to understand the intellectual understanding, which is so true about reality, that when there is more understanding, it let go clinging, expecting for anything, little by little. And at moment when there's no thinking about when and how, it's wrong instantly. But at moment of hearing, considering, understanding, and even not at moment of hearing, it can be at a moment when sanya is so firm, tira sanya. No one, no matter at moment of looking at this or that, talking about this or that, eating this or that, no matter what is there, they are all dharmas, new, always new by conditions, not the same one which has arisen and fallen away before at all. And this is life, keeps on going by conditions, nothing left at all. Only the accumulation of ignorance, attachment, or right understanding, or begin to see life as it is, as no one. This is the most important, that there can be more understanding and more letting go because of understanding that actually it does not belong to anyone at all. And because there's no one at all, there can be the more understanding and letting go, understanding the truth of what is there as it is. Seeing is not that which is seen. Hearing is not seeing. Each one is different. They are all real only at moment when it's there by conditions. So the truth is that all sankhara dhamma arises and falls away. It's dukkha, anicca, dukkha, and all dhammas are anatta. So now, no one and no thing in truth. Just like in a dream, there are so many things, many happenings, going here and there, seeing what and what. But when one wakes up, where are those that we have experienced while one is fast asleep? And actually, in truth, it's not moment of seeing, but it's moment of thinking. But we know that at that moment it's a dream and this is not a dream. But what is a dream and what is that which is not dream? Buddha taught about the processes, sixth way, and mind door. So one knows that at moment while one is fast asleep, no actual seeing and hearing and anyone at all. But while one is asleep, it seems like one hears this and that, talk, speak, eat, and do many things like when one wakes up. So what is the difference between that which appear in dream and that which appear now, not a dream, not a dream? See, the truth is the truth. So what is the truth? The absolute truth. Does one really have a dream?
I just had a discussion with someone who likes a dream. She prefers a dream. She likes
But
it better
everyone
than
knows that one sleep and there's a dream while one is asleep. But what is it is not known. But the truth can be known. Now there is thinking, is it a dream or not a dream? Or not in a dream? See, even they're different. That is called a dream and not a dream. But what is the truth? That moment in sleep, dreaming, and the moment not sleep, no dream, because what? See, this is the truth, the absolute truth, to understand little by little, but actually what it says gone with ignorance or with understanding, little by little. When it's the ignorance, little by little, it accumulates so strong that it cannot understand what is there at all. But when it's the understanding, not ignorance, it begins to understand the truth little by little. Understanding different moments, what is there. While one is dreaming and when it's not dreaming.
Ajahn, it's difficult to explain to people the danger of ignorance because only Panya sees it.
It doesn't matter at all because actually there's no one. Even oneself, we take it for I, but actually it's just like anyone, only different realities. Chitta, Cetasika, and Rupa, that's all. Even Buddha's virtue or about the great wisdom and purity and compassion, so great, uncomparable, uncomparable. So now we just learned what he said about the truth of this very moment, to study carefully what is right and what is not right, what is true and what is not true, and what is meant by ignorance and understanding. These are realities, no one at all. No matter we call it what. At moment of birth is there Nina? Just at moment of birth. See, only there are different realities. That which arises and experienced, and that which arises which cannot experience. Where's Nina? Where's Sujin? And where is Jonathan and Sarah and so on? All are different realities by conditions. Can it be changed? Or no one can change the way it is because they are all Dhamma, one by one, cannot be the same at all. So we just talk about what is the truth of life and what is there now, the truth of that which is there now. It's not there. just appears and then disappears, unknowingly succeeding by the next one so very rapidly, which cannot be known. Only some can be known by the nimitta and so on. This is like the misery of life. But the truth is just like that, because there can be moment of understanding little by little the truth of what is there. For example, there is seeing right now, no name, like Sujin or Sarah or Nina at all. But there is a reality which arises by conditions, and it sees, which means it experiences an object. And in a day, we just think a lot about that which appears as the object. But what about that which experience it non-stop from moment to moment, different ones by conditions, never to return at all? Keeps on and on and on and on, non-stop, as long as there are conditions for whatever arises, no matter long, long time ago and now and so on in the future, uncountable, non-stop, as long as conditions there. And actually, they are all gone, never to return, never be the same. Is the feeling right now? See, when there is understanding, no need to try to know it. But when it appears as the object, who conditioned that? If there's no right understanding of it at all, can it be there to be known as it's there? Just that kind of feeling, unexpectedly. No one likes the unpleasant feeling, but it's there already to be known that it is real. It's conditioned to be only that reality. Unexpectedly, uncontrollable, they are gone. No one can try to stop it. It's gone already. No need to think about wanting to stop it, not having it arisen anymore. But whatever is there, there can be let go the idea of taking it for self. Because it's gone. So the point is that the truth is hidden, but it can be developed to understand it little by little. Ignorance cannot understand what we are talking about, the truth. But right understanding is the moment of considering whether it's true or not, whether it's absolute truth. Is it true that actually there is no one at all? Because what we take for something must be that which cannot experience the rupa and that which arises to experience by its particular characteristic and function. The seeing cannot hear and the hearing cannot see. Who arranged that? Who controlled that? Who managed that? Impossible. Already there by condition and gone. Beyond there can be some kind of thinking to stop it or change it. No need at all. Even to understand what is there is to be by conditions. What we say in Pali, yoniso manasikara, right attention to the characteristic which is there. Whether it's there, it's seen. As soon as one closes one's eyes, it does not appear as shape and form of someone, something at all. But as soon as one opens one's eye, so many things belonging to me, belonging to someone, and so on. But in truth, it is sin. Only once in samsara, never to arise again. What is that seen and what is that experienced? It's impossible to let go the very sticky idea of self, very strong, so great that it can condition any time of taking what is there as something. So very quickly, unknowingly. That's why there is always the idea of me at any time of experiencing anything, even one does not speak out. But me, or I see, I like, I dislike is there all the time. But actually, what we take for I, gone completely, never to return.
So, Nino, I think every aspect of the Dhamma is difficult to explain to other people.
Yes.
And Ajahn has just been setting out how deep and difficult and subtle that is. And when we talk about the dangers of ignorance, we mean, of course, ignorance of the true nature of present moment realities. So one can't start to explain that without understanding about present moment realities to begin with, which is what we talk about all the time here, and Ajahn has just been explaining in detail. So we should not be concerned about trying to explain these subtle aspects of the Dhamma to other people unless they are really interested and have some background that is a basis for getting to the root of the problem. Because what most people understand by ignorance is nothing like the ignorance of the present moment realities.
We cannot force interest of other people.
Cannot force interest.
We try to bring in a little at a time. That's all we can do. Very little. Yeah.
Yes, and it depends on how we assess that other person's level of interest and ability to comprehend as to what little is brought in. But it really comes back to our own understanding as being the most important thing, because without that, nothing can be explained. So there isn't a way to explain to other people.
Yes.
There's only the way of developing understanding oneself, and hopefully that will be one's guide when discussing it with other people.
And like my neighbors too, very little no background at all. And one has lost his wife some time ago, and he doesn't understand, he says, what I say about the loss of dear people, that there are only realities and all by conditions, and it is clinging to ourselves that mourns the loss. I try to explain little by little, but he keeps on saying he does not understand that, and he thinks of his wife.
Yes, but we can say the dearer the loved one, then the more the grief. People can understand something basic like that if one's talking about attachment and some of the Dhamma way of explaining things. It's not going to make sense, but one just has to be one just has to keep it at a level that the other person can comprehend and make sense of.
And
don't think of it as trying to explain the Dhamma, but think of it as saying something helpful for the other person.
And the understanding of nimitta is so basic, but it's very difficult for people to understand that there is only nimitta that is experienced, because realities keep on arising and falling away all the time, like seeing now. And it seems that seeing stays, but there is another moment of seeing again and again, and it seems to stay on. So we try to explain that, but it's difficult.
Well, I'm not sure of the context, of course, and who you're talking about. But again, the discussion has to be at a level that can be, it's not necessary that we explain nimitta to someone who's not ready to hear about it.
Yes.
There are plenty of other aspects of the Dhamma to talk about before nimitta is brought into this discussion. Different doorways, nama and rupa, the reality, I'm not using the Pali terms, of course, but the difference between something that can experience and something that can only be the object of experience.
And uncontrollable is a good aspect.
Yes.
We cannot control. We cannot have things as we want them to, but it depends on conditions. But then we have to explain what conditions are.
Well, bit by bit, little by little, but when one says it depends on conditions, of course, if the person can appreciate that, then maybe that's enough for now to hear for the first time that it all depends on conditions is probably as much as can be assimilated at a single time. But
but if we don't mention these things, they have never an opportunity to learn about them. Like we have opportunity to listen to Ajahn and our Dhamma friends, and we are reminded. It's hard. If we never mention it, then they don't hear about it.
Well, if there's the interest, then there will be conditions for further discussion, perhaps. But for most people, that's not the case. We just have to accept it. That's the way it is.
Like trying is no good, and we have to develop naturally in daily life. It's very important. Just swimming, enjoy music and all the things. Don't change it.
Yeah.
Kunina, as for me, I don't expect anyone to understand what I said at all.
Yes.
But I just talk about the truth of whatever is there to only those persons who are interested to understand the truth. But for anyone who enjoy life and does not have interest in understanding the truth at all, I think it's useless because they have no condition to see the value of understanding the truth of life at all. Until time comes, anyone who just want to know more about life or this and that, we can say little by little about the truth for them to consider little by little and see whether they are interested as we think or not. If they are not, it's useless to talk about more of the truth. Just talk about whatever they are interested, and sometimes there can be a little bit of understand the truth. For example, when there is pain or something like that, we just can say that it's uncontrollable. No one can condition it. Why some people have such pain and why some people do not have such that. There must be conditions for everything. Otherwise, people are not different at all.
And like the neighbor who lost his wife, he wants me to talk more about it, he said, because he didn't understand and he likes to hear more.
For example, everyone has to die. It's so common when time comes. And who can make what the dead to die? See, it's so natural, it's so common. It has to be as it is by its way, so that he can begin to understand life that is uncontrollable. While some people have such and such, while some doesn't have such, and so on. Different happenings, events all the time. Even feeling or thinking. We cannot have people think the same as we do or whatever. Uncontrollable. That is the way. So who can do or who can make or who can change whatever is there? It's already. So he can begin to understand that what is there is my condition. No one can make it arise. And it's so natural for the arising of painful feeling or liking, hatred, compassion. The people are different because actually there are no one, only different dhammas by conditions, little by little to let them think whether it's true or not. And when they are not interested, because they haven't conditioned to be interested, that's all. So we can help only those who are interested to understand the truth. Otherwise, they might have unpleasant feeling hearing about that which they are not interested to hear. The best thing is to have compassion, be friendly, ready to help by words or deeds as much as one can do. And some people would like to know condition for such manners too, and would like to follow. It depends on conditions.
And if he says he would like to hear more, you could ask him what particular point it was that he wanted to hear about, or
Yes.
you can ask him to explain his feelings about the situation and get him to talk more and just respond a bit to what he says rather than think of it as trying to explain the Dhamma.
Yes.
But just think of helping him to manage his grief.
Without expectation, see, because of understanding the conditions for whatever arises.
Could I ask Nina, I know you lost your husband and I lost my 15 years ago. How is it for you? How does these teachings, how does it help you?
Because
At the moment.
knowing so many lives before this life and after this life, and a very good reminder that Ajahn gave to Sarah when she lost her mother. The mother does not care about you anymore. She has forgotten about you because it's another life. So life is so short, and then there is another life. It's so relative, this life, and we find it so important now what we experience, and also our reactions of being sad. That's just for ourselves. So we are in mourning for dear people, but actually it's just that we think of ourselves. And that's also good to know. We don't try to change, as Jonathan always reminds us, and not to change, but to understand. So it is good to know. We don't change and we don't try to do anything, but it's just useful to know it.
I agree. It's all about self. It keeps coming back to this not only with grieving, but also with even clinging to the truth that I want people to understand. It's because I want this, makes me feel better. And it's very subtle.
I am in a group and people have not much background, you know, and sometimes I wonder, what am I doing here? It's such an effort to be there the whole evening. And sometimes I bring in a few sentences, but I should not try to expect anything or convince anybody. Maybe that's very important, not try to convince anyone.
If you mean the Dutch group, it was very important because this is how I met the DSG, because of you, because you were there.
What do you mean?
If you mean the Dutch Intl.Dhamma group, that you don't know why you're here. It was important to me because...
You never know. So I'm glad that you were interested. But you never know what happens, of course. And it's by conditions that I'm there anyway. But I shouldn't expect anything, I know.
No, but to me it was everything. It means everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You never know what happens, of course. Even one or two people, it's also good if they get something. But I should not try to impose too much, and just a few sentences is enough then.
Actually thinking too much about how one is going to explain it to the others can be a distraction from one's own awareness and understanding, because I would be more inclined to have confidence that when awareness and understanding is developed, then that will give the answer to how best to explain it to others, rather than try to think of a way to do so. That wouldn't be my approach. But anyway, I know you have an inclination to think like this because of course your writing and everything. You like to explain, to have everything worked out and explain it, but it's not really necessary to have a clear idea, a specific idea of how best to explain something to someone.
Yes.
Let it come at the time as conditions take it at the moment.
Yeah, I found it so useful what Chanti wrote about the seminar in Bangkok, and one of the monks who got to understand so much and was also impressed by the warmness and the kindness of other people. It was a very nice post, Chanti, about the one with the difficult Pali name, knowing a lot is in Pali.
Anya Bahulo.
Yeah. I didn't know about the seminar. It's really interesting.
Well, it was just a regular discussion, and that was the Venerable's reaction, I think, to the first discussion he attended.
Yes.
And he attended some others after that, but not many. And then we haven't seen him for a long time since then.
I knew about Venerable Dhammananda because he was mentioned in some letters in the forum in DSG. But through him, he was interested. Very good, that seminar for monks here in Bangkok, some 10 years or so ago.
Yeah, and it also struck me because we cannot help being ready to hear something or not. I mean, when I heard Nina in the Dutch group, I just couldn't. I said, "What is happening?" I think I really said it. And this just conditions, and this happened with this venerable Panya Bahulo as well. And on the other hand, we cannot force it. But I realized I posted a lot about it. That the last discussion, I was getting lost in trying to explain because I really, really wanted it to happen. And when it doesn't, it doesn't. For someone else, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Chanti, I think that's the point of Jonathan's explanation earlier, to comments earlier to Nina, that even while we're trying to help the other person, what's most important is our own interest to understand the Dhamma now, our own understanding. So it doesn't matter. At any given moment, that's the most important thing.
Although I can appreciate that that wish for the goodness of Dhamma, you know, the desire to share that, excuse me, and I think of Sariputta, Bhadanta Sariputta, when he wanted, of course, he shared with his friend Moggallana after he was enlightened, but then, of course, he wanted to share the Dhamma also with his teacher, his original teacher, before the Buddha, but he was unable to. You know, he wasn't interested. So no doubt it was frustrating. So here we have even a Sotapanna, you know, trying to get his teacher to understand the great benefits and the great delights of the Dhamma in many ways, but he couldn't. He was not willing to. So I think that point that was made earlier on, that there's the right conditions or there's not the right conditions, and we sometimes try and push that, but it must be as it is. It can't be changed. You know, people are the way they are. Conditions are the way they are.
Yes, and even worse, no excuse, because it hits me when I hear, listening to the audios, Sujin saying that the teaching are getting lost because they're not understood. And then something of a warrior stands up, but even that's dosa and loba. I mean, it's not up to me. And again, it's me clinging. So this comes in from all directions, the jumping to do. And I see the I in it again, but usually a bit later. But it does hurt, yeah.
Does anyone else have a question or comment they'd like to bring up?
Okay. Yeah. I had a neighbor. She said, for 8 years, I was looking after her all the time to her needs. And suddenly, she even mentioned one day, if I happen to be in dementia, we stay at good friends. And then one day after 8 years, she had dementia, and she told the police, I stole her things. I stole her telephone. I was so, at the moment I was upset. And then when I went out with my dog, when I came home, And the police asked me, how long have you been staying here? I said 8 years. And the lady told the police it was 6 months. Was somebody up on top of me living was about six months. So the police told me, oh, that is a wrong information that I got. So the police told me, you will get a letter from the court. Don't worry about it. So one day I got a letter from the court saying that there's no proof that you steal her telephone. And I was in this situation. I was not angry at all to her, but I was afraid to greet her or to come to her. She's my next door neighbor. Then I started to start to consider, that is, I cannot do anything with it, but I have to stay a distance. Yeah, it has been, I think, more than 4 or 5 years, no, 3 years, that I have no more contact with her. Not that I don't want to have contact. It's I'm afraid of more problem. Yeah. That was also it was rather difficult for me because we are staying close to each other. I tried to manage to overcome this situation, and without trying not to feel sad about it. It's a situation. It can happen. Okay. And now the lady, the doctor said, you cannot stay here. You have to go to an old people's home. Yeah. The situation, I would like also to visit her, but it's difficult. When she sees me, or she might still have this impression that I stole her things. And it was, she was telling all the surrounding neighbors the same things, but they don't believe it, because they saw that I was helping her all these years. It cannot be. They know it's the other way around. But anyway, it good that I try to forget all these situations. It was okay for me. It was a hard time, but I managed to forget this situation.
Yeah, that's good to forget situations, because there are only realities, and situations are not really our way of thinking. We are used to thinking that way because we have accumulated such thinking. But to just the realities, to understand these, and then it's more easy to forget about what happens and what someone said and what happened to me and all these stories.
Yeah, it was emotionally, I was a little stressed, give me more stress, but then I tried to distance from this one. I cannot do anything. One thing that was very hard for me to overcome is that I treat her like a mother, because when I went back to Indonesia for 2012, that was my last time that I saw my mother. So whether it's my mother there or here, I take it as a mother to me.
Well,
That was hard
Caesar,
for me.
these situations like this are difficult. And I think in reality, we can't forget them, because any small thing can trigger the memory again, like you're telling us the story now.
Mhm.
And no doubt there is the memory and some feeling associated with remembering the situation.
Mhm.
But the Buddha's teaching helps us to understand what is real at the present moment. And it doesn't necessarily give us guidance as to what to do in this situation or that situation. So these ups and downs of life are part of the worldly conditions of living in samsara. And as long as there are conditions for life in samsara, there will be these kinds of situations and others occurring. But when we understand the value of having more understanding of what is real at the present moment, then we appreciate that the situation is just that, a passing situation. That is, and there are conditions for pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and for ups and downs, and people saying bad things about us that aren't true. What can one do? Nothing. That it's when it's done already. So I appreciate your wish to somehow maintain contact with the lady, and I'm sure you can still be a support to her where she is, but I don't want to offer any particular advice, because I don't really know enough about the situation. But in any event, I think, as Nina said, we recognize that these are just stories running through our head all the time about what happened to me, about what I can do. Thinking. That is the reality of those moments, accompanied by unpleasant feeling. And we know that that doesn't help the situation, actually.
But I just about the stories. There are a lot of stories, and for me, I hope it's just a phase. But there are things that haven't been considered before learning the teachings. In my case, there's from child on a lot of dosa towards life, towards loss, by conditions. But now we're learning that it's not the end. And although there's no I, we learn that while samsara is very long and that there's not even control for a next life, although I'm not experiencing that life, but there will be that next life. There's no control, even if it's a hell realm or those things. And those are stories as well. And they can, in my case, be conditions for a lot of fear. And they're stories, and yet they're realities. So maybe you could say something about this, because you have so much years of digesting all these. I don't know what to say, the words or realities, both, to appease.
I think it helps a lot to consider more the meaning of living alone. I had very good reminders also about a lot of dear people that in fact we are living alone because there's only seeing and there's only hearing these are real. And that is the meaning of living alone, that there are no people in reality. And that I find it helpful, but maybe it's not helpful for everyone. It depends how people appreciate this.
Shanti, this is Robert. Talking about fear of hell, and that we realize, we learn about samsara, and as you said, how long it is, and kind of it is fearful. However, we know that dosa only arises with a kusala chitta. So if we're thinking about hell and samsara and there's any dosa or fear, it must mean we're considering it in the wrong way. We're not considering it wisely at all. So it's like a little lesson for us that somehow we're misunderstanding something, because the truth isn't fearful. So if we are understanding it correctly, there will actually be either pleasant feeling or neutral feeling. So it sort of gives us a hint on how to reflect in a wise way on samsara, I think. That's all.
Yeah, it's helpful.
And Ajahn sometimes says that the present moment is a test of one's understanding. And I think that's perfectly true. When we are lost in thinking about the story of me and my situation, there is no realization that the reality of that moment is just thinking, thoughts going through one's mind. And I find that helpful, because the thinking, we tend to assume that thinking is going to be useful to resolve a situation. But the more we learn about, as Robert is saying, what is wholesome and unwholesome, we can appreciate that the unwholesome thinking isn't helping anyone, not oneself, not the other person, by its very nature. And so that can, that understanding can be beneficial. It's good to have those
Chanti,
reminders.
Chanti, as Jonathan is saying, and what Nina said earlier about living alone, so we can understand that in reality, our experiences are either vipaka, which is result of karma, or kusala or akusala. So vipaka is just result of karma. But the problem, and it's not a problem is in the akusala. So as Jonathan is saying, it's in the thinking. It's the akusala thinking that's the problem. If it's just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting unpleasant objects, it just arises and falls away instantly. No problem.
Yes, and it's good to hear all this from everyone, how you cope, because continuing to listen and read, we do come across all these stories, and we do have to hear them and digest them. So we do have to think. And I realize all the time it's the thinking that's the danger. But then again, we hear that it's so dangerous. So, and also, yeah, Ajahn Suchin really uses the word, so it's so dangerous. And then I want to know what's dangerous. And, I realize very much, but it's very good to hear from Nina, from Jonathan, from Sukin, from Robert. It really helps. And it also helped me to remember, I've heard it before, that whenever there's fear or dosa, it's a wrong understanding. So anyone who can still share their experience in this, I think it's very helpful for everyone, because it can be a barrier to want to know the truth, this fear. And I think also about the Dutch group, for example, people so much want to believe there's free will, that this can be a barrier to hear the truth of the teachings.
Maeve, are you about to speak? Maeve, are you wanting to say something, Maeve?
If nothing arises at all, can there be any danger?
No, that sounds wonderful.
And that's the word of the teachings of the Buddha. As long as there are, whatever arises, the danger is that it's not there for long. It's just gone, changing all the time, and bring about the idea of something and someone, and what is true. No one. But when there's no understanding of the truth, it has to be something and someone. And when there's something and someone, what about craving for pleasant things, pleasant feeling, pleasant sound, smell all the time? At that moment, and comparing to when there is no such moment, no longing, no clinging, no wanting at all, what is better?
No
And
wanting.
that is the truth, the absolute truth of the whatever is now. That's why we think a lot about this and that all the time, problem and situation and so on. But what about the best thing is do good at any time and any situation. That's all. But no one can control anything. Only right understanding is the one who leads the way of life to be understanding the truth or no understanding of the truth at all. And when there is the understanding, life changes, not by anyone, but by understanding the truth of it. That actually it cannot stay at all, it cannot last. But what is that which has been arising and falling away, accumulated, is wholesomeness or unwholesomeness, ignorance or understanding. That's all. And this is the only way to let go the wrong understanding, taking it, whatever is there, as mine or me or someone or thing. Just consider about the truth. It's not the matter of trying to do it, to understand it, but at moment of considering the truth, that is right understanding, and it develops in its own way. Because what is there, it's me or not me, or a reality uncontrollable. Little by little, it conditions the thought to the moment of understanding what is there is so true, no one can change it all. But right understanding can understand it. So right understanding, let go. Different kind of thinking with aversion and so on, or sorrow, or regret. All gone, no one. And this is the absolute truth at any time. But it depends on right understanding at level of how much understanding is there. Just learning about it, but no understanding when it's there as the object. Even right now, hardness now, no understanding or beginning to attend to it as it's real, and it's only reality which can be known when it's there only. That's all. The words of truth develops little by little to let go, thinking about other things, or the way to think about the other things as usual, to begin to think of the truth of it, that it's not there. So wasting time to be regret or to not doing good or that and so on. So many things happens in life from moment to moment, from time to time, but they can be known as they are, as different ones at a time. And it does not appear as it is because of ignorance, no understanding that the moment of seeing is not the moment of hearing, just right now. The truth is that no one there. Hearing hears, seeing sees, and every moment different experiencing all the time. From hearing again and again, it can be object of thought, the fruit of considering the truth. Otherwise, we think about other things as usual when there's not enough words of truth to be heard and thought about and considered carefully to begin to understand the value of understanding what is there as it hasn't been known at all. Even the word nama or rupa, it's useless if it's only remembering the word nama and rupa, but to understand the characteristic which that word represents, this moment of experiencing an object. So it's not the word, but it's the characteristic of a reality. But without words, who know what we're talking about? That's why we use different words to represent different reality to be known as seeing. We use the word seeing. No one sees, but the seeing sees. Is it right? Right now, is there anyone at moment of seeing while seeing sees? Just beginning naturally, so it can condition the moment of sudden thinking about what is there by conditions. But it's not clear as it just the beginning to think about it. But when there is more and more understanding, who knows how much understanding of that which you have talked from week to week up until now, no one knows. But at moment when right understanding is there of the object by conditions, it is different from when it's experienced without understanding. We talk about sati and satipatthana. The word is sati, is a reality which is not forgetting about the nature which is wholesome or unwholesome, according to how much understanding is there of that. But we can see that in a day we think a lot of other things. It's not sati. Or at moment of thinking, anything, anytime is sati. See, that is not the understanding of each reality as it is. So sati is that which reminds or not forgetting about that which is heard or the characteristic of that which is there as it is. So at moment of doing good, usually no understanding, but there is the idea without saying out, I am doing good. But that is not right because it is sati which performs its function, not forgetting about wholesomeness. That's why it can condition and motivate the kusala like dana or helping the others or being friendly and so on. Beginning to understand the characteristic of sati when there is the understanding of the different deeds, wholesome or unwholesome, and can see that how can be in a day a moment of giving or helping or being friendly to the others. There must be the reality which not forget about doing good in such a way. That's why it's not self or anyone at all. And even we talk about sati like this, but when it's not satipatthana, it's not the understanding of the reality which is there, which is sati. That's why Panya cannot understand without Sati, but Sati cannot understand. But when there is the understanding, it conditions the moment of understanding Sati as Sati. So when Sati arises, no doubt about that moment. It's not me who try to have it, or who try to concentrate, or who try to do this and that, but it's certainly by condition is there. Being aware of a characteristic which is now or any time by itself, no selection, no thought before to be aware of this or that. It's there already, certainly different from moment when there's no awareness of the object at all. That's why even the characteristic of what we're talking about, seeing, hearing, liking, disliking, kindness, or awareness, or the word we use, sati, it appears that it begin to understand the nature of the reality which is there, not going away from that object, because it's what we say, being aware. Or it can be in the beginning like attending to the characteristic of a reality. But when it's with understanding, it's different from just yoniso manasikara or right attention to the object. But it is aware of the characteristic which we have heard, that which is aware of a characteristic which has been studied before as no one and no self, begin to understand at that following moment, nothing is there together with the object, the hardness, only hardness. See, this word, only hardness. But the truth is so subtle, what is meant by nothing is there. When there is awareness of a reality, not two or three at all, only one by condition to understand that it's there. But since it arises and falls away so very rapidly, the other object appears together. But even that very short moment of just being aware of the characteristic which we have heard, to begin to study, to just let go all the others so clearly, because in the beginning it's not as clear, so it's just a moment, like a moment of thinking, a moment of seeing, while the other things still there. So it's the moment of being aware, right awareness, because it arises with right understanding to know that it's a reality. Only that, but it shows up its nature as sati, because not anyone expects to have such reality appearing or arise to perform its function at all. So each word should be carefully studied, one at a time, until only one really at a time, clearer than just now when it begins to be aware of a characteristic. While the other reality appears together, it cannot appear well as it is, because other characteristic is there too. But it can be known that it's different from moment when there's no awareness of our reality or any reality right now at all. Just learn to understand the truth, and like we have heard before, the understanding of what is there is the check or the test of how much understanding is there too. So just hearing, considering, and understanding that even that is not I. There are different realities arising together. Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Ekakata, Sivitindriya, Manasikara. At least at moment of seeing only, as the other hearing only. How many mental factors arising with it? By conditions, experience the same object because of the Dhamma, condition Chitta and Cittasika to arise, to experience. whatever is there. Now, the understanding of no one develops, and it is the moment of walking on the right path to understand the truth of the noble truth. And without this as the way, it's impossible to understand what is there as it is. That's why even the path is so very subtle, because it's right now of beginning to understand what is there as not self, until it is a moment of realizing the truth, the absolute truth, to have more confidence of the truth, of what the way it is. So just depend on understanding to think about going to visit friend or not. And what would I say when I see, or what can I think? It's in the future, not now. When it's there, it might be different from what we thought before. That's why be good at any time, in any situation, because of the understanding, conditions such manners, the way it is. Kusala sila, akusala sila, or apayagata sila. The manners of citta and cetasika, the behavior of citta and cetasika by conditions. So who knows the next moment? Impossible by conditions. And depending on understanding, whether it's the unknown and it fall away, unknown and fall away, or it begin to be object of attention and right thinking and right awareness of the object, stage by stage. But if there's no understanding of what is there now in life until death, is it danger not to understand? And what about next life? What is there now is a condition for next life. So only Panya can understand what is meant by life, the arising and falling away, the world, that which arises and falls away, are dangerous because actually they are all gone with ignorance and attachment again and again, more and more. Longer and longer. So it's not just the word, it is dangerous or it's danger. But the understanding can begin to see how dangerous it is. Just there cannot be any danger at all if nothing arises. So how danger comes from? By conditions. And that is the deep and subtle understanding of what is meant by danger. To really understand the dangers of it. So what about? If nothing arises, there's no danger at all. Is it true?
Yes.
And who knows, your friends or anyone's husband or wife or dear ones now can be born as snake, monkey, fish, or anything.
And maybe already died and born again many times.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So it's different from moment when we think about the absolute reality and thinking about friends and dear ones, parents, relatives.
It helps to remind myself that there's still so little understanding, and the more understanding develops, the less fear.
And it's fun, yeah. Not anyone, not you too.
Yes, yes.
So beginning to understand the moment of right understanding and the moment of ignorance and attachment. At any moment, any time, any situation, no one, only different realities arising by conditions at all.
And just going back to Sita's story, because it's relevant to what you just said, Ajahn, about arising by conditions and nothing that anyone can do. The Buddha Sita spoke about the 8 worldly conditions. I don't know if you've heard of these before, but they are gain and loss, disrepute and fame, praise and blame, and pleasure and pain. And he said that these 8 worldly conditions revolve around the world, and the world revolves around these 8 worldly conditions. And so all the ups and downs of our life, that are met in life, can be summarized, I think, by these 8 conditions, especially in the case of the story you told us about fame, or good repute and disrepute, praise and blame. And isn't that true? That and we are so disturbed by these conditions. We are excited by the good ones, the favorable ones, and we are upset by the unfavorable ones, the unpleasant ones. And the Buddha said that the wise and mindful person knows them and sees that they're subject to change. Desirable conditions don't excite his mind, nor is he repelled by undesirable conditions. He has dispelled attraction and repulsion. They are gone and no longer present. So that was the Buddha's comment, that these conditions are inescapable as long as one is living in samsara. And there is nothing that one can do. The same applied in the Buddha's time to the Buddha himself. He was subject to praise and blame and to fame and disrepute. And there is no fixed way of dealing with the situation, but the development of understanding is what will eventually allow one to be immune to these conditions. until then, one can only reflect on the Buddha's words and consider the wisdom of his teaching about the inevitability of this aspect of life in samsara.
Jonathan, may I just ask you something in relation to that? And it goes to, I suppose, a kind of thinking about, well, different situations that I find myself in, or what is happening in the world around us. But a kind of a thinking about the pointlessness. A repetitive pointlessness, and it's in the territory of that all these conditions are actually the result of taking reality for something or someone, and the pointlessness actually kind of seems to be very tiring. Yes, it's like the tiring because it is so repetitive. The well, I suppose it's the repetitiveness of the ignorance, and of course that's the ignorance that arises in my experience as equally. So when you say there is no fixed way of dealing with the situation, you're talking about those conditions, those eight worldly conditions that arise, but I'm actually talking about a response to them, in terms of seeing a great deal of pointlessness there. Can you maybe say something about that?
Well, I think when you talk about the pointlessness, I understand you to mean that it's just they keep on repeating the same ups and downs, keep on repeating good news, bad news, praise and blame.
No, not. Well, that is certainly true, but I'm talking more about what is behind the repetitiveness of it, which is the ignorance of what is really happening, what is really or what the reality is at any given time, and that until that is somehow penetrated with understanding, that cycle, and I suppose it's like the cycle of samsara, it just seems to make the whole process extremely tiring.
Well, ignorance is behind it all, ignorance and
yes.
wrong view. And of course, the outcome of deeds done in the past have a bearing, because they are a factor in the ups and downs that occur. So it's not just the perception. It is also, in a sense, the reality, but not in the way we talk about absolute realities of the present moment. The pointlessness you refer to is I suppose, the inability to do anything about it.
Yes. Yes,
And
and I think maybe what you just said at the end of describing the worldly conditions, how there being no fixed way of dealing with those cycles, other than through the development of understanding.
Yes, because, for example, if one is praised a lot or blamed a lot, that is conditioned, among other things, by one's deeds in the past. It doesn't happen randomly or without reason, without cause in the past. So that's that we're talking about here. But it is something that the Buddha said is to be reflected upon. One's attraction to the pleasant, to the desirable of the, like the praise, and one's distress at the undesirable. And those reactions are conditioned and will continue. But as he pointed out, it doesn't last forever. He used the term viparinama to explain that it changes, the situation also changes. So whatever is being experienced now is not going to continue to be experienced for that much longer, whether it's praise or blame, good news or bad news, honor or dishonor, gain or loss. So it's to be understood in that light.
The pointlessness will persist, though.
The grind of samsara.
Indeed.
And I think, Maeve, too, that the the pointlessness, of it all it relates to the relentless rise and fall of Dhammas all the time. That's, and Kunsajin, Tanajan Sujin spoke that about a moment ago about, someone was speaking about danger, and the wise one appreciates the danger, that is dependent upon the rise and fall of Dhammas all the time. There cannot be danger without that rise and fall. There cannot be pointlessness, also without that rise and fall. They're all interrelated. And, I've appreciated, everyone's questions and thoughtfulness today, because it's been, I think it's a really helpful way to consider Dhamma and to ponder Dhamma carefully. And we can begin to see the connections at times, and how ignorance can play an unfortunate part in our journey when we don't consider carefully. It's sort of an ongoing thing, and I think it's so helpful and valuable to listen to everybody, so that we can enable panya, and also continue to consider Dhammas that appear. And I appreciated too, Jonathan, those the 8 worldly Dhammas, which again are pretty relentless too, in everybody's lives to a lesser or greater degree. It's never changing. They never change. In the sense that it's always one or the other at some level or other, and the truly wise can understand that. So we can be really grateful for the Dhamma to enable that level of consideration and the wisdom that can be developed.
Yes, yes, indeed, Sundara. Because in the absence of that, I suppose there have always been many attempts to try and attribute some kind of meaning to those eight worldly conditions. There are various sort of philosophies and um, approaches to how to live life, etc. Um, in response to some kind of perception about the ongoing continuity of those cycles. But I guess, as you've said, we come to know that really it's not about finding meaning. It's about understanding the truth.
Yeah,
What is actually there?
I think that's a good
Not
point.
what we would like to be there.
Right. I don't think, you're right about this sort of philosophical quest for meaning. Of course, they're usually going down the wrong track. It's all about, concepts and ideas, which at a certain level obviously can have their place, but they're no match for the Buddha-Dhamma, which seeks to understand the realities that appear. And of course, many of those philosophers really have not been fortunate enough to begin to get a grasp on the realities, which they, of course, mistake for somebody or something or some situation or whatever. And it's an easy trap to fall into. I think we can do it all the time at some level or other. But these meetings where we can come together and consider these matters with a little bit more introspection and consideration, we can begin to grow in the Dhamma in that respect.
Perhaps I can give a little, before we finish, a little bit of encouragement for Shanti's question about samsara too. I think many people do have a fear of samsara. Once they really study Buddhism, they get some confidence in the Buddha's teaching, and then they learn about samsara, and it becomes sometimes almost an obstacle because it seems, like you were saying, very fearful. So there's a few paths that people take, and from what I've seen, one of them is they will start doing intense sort of practice, possibly even try to find some technique that suits them with the aim of becoming a Sotapanna as soon as possible, and then they can get away from that fear, and that's all that, and that's solved. Or they even turn away from hearing Dharma because it starts to condition fear. So I think confidence is a must, and the fact that you can listen to quite deep Dharma and accept it, Shanti, is actually a sign that there is a lot of confidence there, and that is one of the factors that has to develop. So congratulations. I hope that's encouraging.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I also find it very
really
nice of Sundara to stress that it's so important that we're all here, even if we don't talk. It's the confidence of this group. And also, I've already noticed so much in daily life that people won't notice. But for example, although it's fearful about samsara, there's some confidence about this truth, and there's a lot of, I don't know the word, it's understanding, but it's with compassion as well, towards religions, because I used to be very harsh about other religions, but now I understand that somehow in the darkness there are realities. I used to say people who thought about hell and things like that were stupid. And now I don't anymore, because I see that I'm stupid. And I don't like the dogmas and the doctrines, but yeah, the teachings help a lot to stay more with my own ignorance, and that's kind. I think the kindness, that's what I want to stress. What I learned from this group and what the Venerable Panya Bahula also noticed a lot, that's wise. That's also what Sujin today said to me, do good in any situation. And this group helps to know what is good and what isn't. And this is also so subtle. It's all about understanding this. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for all being here, everyone, each and everyone.
And thank you for that, Shanti. And if I could just add a little bit more from the sutta on the worldly conditions for the points raised by Sita and Maeve. And the Buddha said that the uninstructed worldling, when he meets with the worldly conditions, he doesn't reflect on them, that they are subject to change. And they said, for example, talking about gain and loss, he said, gain obsesses his mind and loss obsesses his mind, etc. And so on for the other worldly conditions. And then he says, he is attracted to gain and repelled by loss, and so on for the other conditions, attracted to one and repelled by the other. Thus involved with attraction and repulsion, he is not freed from birth, old age and death, etc. And so I don't know if that helps, but that is us, a description of us. We are obsessed by the desirable outcomes and the undesirable outcomes, and we're attracted to the desirable outcomes and repulsed by the undesirable ones. And Sita, that is daily life for us.
Yeah, that's why I forget about this one without being being sad about it. It's life. I take it that way.
Good. And Ajahn may wish to add a few words as it's almost the end of our session. Ajahn.
Okay. Are we sick now?
Very sick, Ajahn.
What do you mean, Ajahn, sick?
By defilements.
Pointlessness. What is that?
Pointlessness.
Is it a kind of disease?
Well, I guess what it means is that.
And can there be any medicine for it?
Well,
no purpose, right?
Truth is a medicine.
So we don't know that we are sick until we go to the doctor sometimes, right? Or otherwise when symptoms of that disease appear. That's why not understanding the truth of what is it, there cannot be the medicine for it. But the medicine for any kind of sickness is there. And what is it? What is it? The words of truth. Otherwise, what can cure sickness of ignorance, attachment? And how come to be pointless? And what is the truth of it? If there's no understanding of the cause of the disease, there must be disease all the time from this and that. Different ones all the time, even not knowing that it's a kind of disease or sickness. So to be truthful, the truth is not known as it is enough to cure any kind of the sickness comes from ignorance. That's why when one has trouble or pointless or whatever unpleasant feeling, the best thing when there is the understanding of what is the medicine is to listen to Dhamma or to read it or to consider it the best moment in life that can cure all kind of disease unexpectedly. The relief from ignorance and wrong understanding of what is there. So as long as whatever is there, there must be condition or root of it to grow up to appear as flower or pot or tree or whatever. See, different kinds of reality. That's why to understand that there can be the understanding of the truth, which all kind of sickness come from ignorance and attachment, and can understand little by little the absolute truth, which can be realized, but so far, far, far away. But from understanding little by little, like the snail, just creep a little at a time to get to the goal. See, there can be moment of understanding, but it's not just from sit still or not listen to the truth at all, because the word of truth is so true that nobody can change. As long as there is ignorance and there is the idea of self, no one can be safe from sickness at all. It's there one day.
We're all very appreciative, Tanajan, for your very wise and insightful reminders. Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
So everyone has medicine at home or with you anywhere to read or to think about or to listen to the word of truth. Anytime taking medicine is that very moment to cure all kind of disease.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So we have to find out what is pointlessness. What is it? If one cannot see it, how can it be cured?
Thank you very much, Ajahn. Thank you.
Thank you.